in terms of visually, we're going from a world where there's only straight lines. And this is what light is. Light is brittle. Boom, boom, boom. That's why it is awakening. And from that, we're going into the curve. We can see it in the movement of the water. It's the most beautiful thing to observe the little waves and the vortices in a little stream of water. When you look at the vortices in the water, you see this is nothing to do with light. See, they're not computer-generated images. This is how water naturally moves all the time. We just have to make those movements visible. You have to understand these are the forms inside the fluid element, inside the water element. And so imagine when you watch how new life begins, like in the uterus, from a single cell, the fetus grows and grows until the form the baby is ready to be born. You'd have to say just about 90% or more, at least at the beginning, everything, it's just fluid. And so the etheric form impulse, the sound ether, is incarnating into the water element. And so the watery element, there are these flows inside the womb. In other words, the form is there before you can physically see it. Initially, the form is just there as a movement of fluids. So we know there's the movement, and then there's this other incredibly special, typical characteristic of water, and that is water does not move as one homogeneous body. We think it does, but it doesn't. Water moves as an infinite number of shearing, curved planes. Think about it. When a river flows, and then there is a rock in the river, and the rock provides resistance, and there's a little vortex now that forms as a result of that resistance. And so then you have the vortex rotating, but at the same time, as the vortex is rotating, the river still keeps going. And so that means at some point, the water of the vortex will go upstream inside the river while the rest of the river goes downstream. You see, you have planes shearing past each other. And that is the most simple example of shearing planes. If I wanted to show you something that's a little bit more complex, I could show you a form like this, which is shearing, moving planes. This is the same form where it's like a stone falls into the water, and it causes all these shearing planes, and then they become more and more and more and more complex. This is the same movement, just taken at different intervals. And so you can get a sense about the possibility of the formation of the most complex forms just through the movement of curved planes of water. In this case, the life and the movement was a mechanical movement, just like a stone falling in the water or gravity pushing the water. But the moment we introduce sound ether, then the movement is created by a life force. And that is the opposite to gravity. It is the force of levity. And so remember when I talked about in connection with light, I talked about this glove. The light brings the form, and the little flower grows into that negative space. The light provides the external form template, but all that internal space, just imagine how complex our internal space is. The cells and the blood vessels and the organs and all those internal forms, all of that internal differentiation is created through curved planes excited by the sound ether. So you can see how the four ethers beautifully work together. The warmth ether is the force of the beginning that places it into a stream of time. The light ether streams the external form. The sound ether differentiates it from within. And then the life ether carries the blueprint of the whole species, puts a skin around it, and creates a living, breathing form out of it. And so you can see in nature, we need all the four ethers to create a living form, whether it's a plant form or an animal form, or even the human form. It could not happen without the four ethers. But those same forces, if we understand how to use them, we can also create works of art with the force of light ether, the force of sound ether, the force of warmth ether, just like Sue tried to show you in those simple clay models. When you bring all the ethers together and you get a living creature, a living whole in nature, the equivalent of that living whole in nature, the equivalent in the artistic realm is universal beauty. You may remember sometimes when I define universal beauty, I define it as something is universally beautiful if it contains an element of goodness, truth, and beauty in the sense of life. And when those three come together, and when those three are united by a fourth principle, the life ether, which provides the unity, then, like I said before, we have a living being in nature, and we have a work of art that has the potential of being universally beautiful and going beyond fashion and beyond something that will be timeless. And so you can see what we've done in the last workshop, warmth and light, that was half the story. And what we're going to do in the next workshop with sound ether and life ether, that completes the picture. And so if that is something that interests you, I invite you to participate, and I look forward to seeing you there.